Good morning all. Today we'll be learning about the nasal cavity, in that nasal septum and the lateral wall of the nose. You'll be learning this topic under the competency 37.1. Under that you should be able to describe and demonstrate the features of nasal septum, lateral wall of the nose, their blood supply and nerve supply. The objectives of today's class will be, you should be able to, at the end of this session, you should be able to demonstrate and describe the parts of the nose, demonstrate and describe the components and features of the nasal septum and lateral wall of the nose, blood supply and nerve supply. You should be able to explain the clinical importance of the Little's area and explain the dangerous areas of the nasal cavity and their clinical relevance. First, we'll learn one case scenario. I'll put this at the end of the session, so you should be able to answer these questions. A 60-year-old woman came to the ENT OPD with complaints of bleeding through the nose. And she had 2 to 3 episodes of the bleeding for the last 4 hours. And on examination, no functional cause was detected, like she was not an hypertensive or no trauma was there, okay, external injury was there. Then except that she had caused some trauma to her nose, okay, by a digital trauma, that is she would have picked a nose, okay. She was diagnosed to have epistaxis without any functional cause, okay. So she was not having any hypertension or predisposing factors. She was diagnosed to have epistaxis. And the questions would be, why should digital trauma lead to epistaxis? Okay, digital trauma is picking the nose, okay. Which part of the nasal cavity is involved in this particular condition, and give the anatomical basis for this problem. The outline of this class would be, you will be learning the introduction to nasal cavity, nasal septum, in that components of the nasal septum, the nerves and the arteries which are supplying it, and the applied anatomy related to nasal septum. Then lateral wall of the nose, under this components of the lateral wall, features, that is what are the important features you are getting in the lateral wall of the nose, and then the nerves and the arteries which are supplying the lateral wall, and the important questions in this particular topics. I'll just give you the brief introduction about the nose. Okay, so if you take this as the external nose, the external nose is formed by both bones and the cartilages. Okay, upper 1/3 of the framework is bony and the lower 2/3 is cartilaginous. Okay, so this is the cartilaginous part and this is the bony part. Okay, so this, the middle one, okay, so it's called as the nasal bridge. Okay, both the nasal bones, okay, so they unite to form the nasal bridge. Okay, so that is the nasal bridge along with the frontal process of the maxilla. Okay, these two. Okay, so if you can observe here, this is the frontal process of the maxilla and this is the two nasal bones. Okay, they unite in the midline to form the nasal bridge, okay, and contributed by the frontal process of the maxilla on either sides. And this entire bluish structure, that is 2/3, is the cartilaginous part of the bone, external bone. Okay, so the main cartilages being, the 5 cartilages are there, 2 lateral cartilages and a single median septal cartilage, and 2 major inferior cartilages and the minor cartilages. Okay, we'll be learning it in the septum in detail. So please remember, the bone, the nose, external nose, if you take, it is both bony and cartilaginous in structure. Upper 1/3 is bony and the lower 2/3 is cartilaginous. In the upper 1/3, you should remember both the, okay, nasal bones, okay, unite to form in the midline the nasal bridge, and which is supported or contributed by the frontal process of the maxilla. So we'll learn the nasal cavity, okay, as such. Okay, so the anterior openings of the nose is called as the nostrils or the anterior nares, and the posterior openings are called as the choana or the posterior nasal apertures. Okay, through the posterior nasal apertures, the nasal cavity will communicate with the pharynx, especially the nasopharynx. I think you have learned nasopharynx. Okay, so through the posterior openings or the posterior apertures, the nasal cavity communicates through the pharynx, and Through the exterior, the anterior nares or the anterior openings, okay, will communicate through the exterior. This is the nasal cavity. If you take, okay, it has got a roof and a floor. The floor is the one which separates the mouth or the oral cavity from the nasal cavity, and the roof separates the nasal cavity from the cranial fossa. Okay, beyond this will be a middle cranial fossa here. Okay, so middle and the anterior cranial fossa. Okay, so this is the roof of the nasal cavity and this is the floor of the nasal cavity. And this whatever structures you are seeing, okay, so the midline, in the middle there is a median wall of the nose, okay, that we have taken off. So you are able to see one lateral wall. So this is as such as a one nasal, okay, cavity, one half of the nasal cavity, which is separated from the other by a medial wall or the median wall, that's called as the nasal septum, and this is the lateral wall. Okay, so what is the bones which are forming the roof? If you can observe here, okay, so the roof is formed by the sphenoid, especially the body of sphenoid and the cribriform plate of the ethmoid. If you can observe in front of the body of sphenoid, there is a bone, okay, which has got pores in it. Okay, so that is called as the cribriform. Cribriform means it is porous. Okay, so there is a cribriform plate of ethmoid. Okay, these two along with the frontal and the part of the nasal bones, they form the roof of the nasal cavity and they separate the nasal cavity from the cranial cavity. Then the floor is formed by the palate actually. Okay, so that is especially the hard palate. If you can observe here, this hard palate is the one which separates the nasal cavity from the oral cavity. And there is a lateral wall. This is the lateral wall. We'll learn that in detail later. And the one half of the nasal cavity will be separated from the other by a median septum. That's called as the nasal septum or the medial wall of the nose. We have taken off the nasal septum, so you are able to see one half of the lateral wall of the nasal cavity. If you can observe here, first we'll take up the medial wall or the nasal septum. Okay, so they have taken a section of the skull bone. So one nasal cavity is on the other side. So this, okay, the one which is on this side has been taken off. Okay, this is the medial wall or the midline. In the midline, there is a septum. Okay, so this is how it appears on your gross specimen. Okay, this is the nasal septum. This is how it appears on the skull. Okay, so this is the nasal, median nasal septum, medial wall of the nose. The nasal septum is made up of both bones and the cartilages. It is a osteocartilaginous partition between the two nasal cavities. Okay, so both the halves. Okay, so it is a osteocartilaginous. That means it is made up of both bones and the cartilages. First, we'll learn what are the bones forming the nasal septum. If you can observe here, these two, that is almost the posterior part of the nasal septum is bony. Anterior part is cartilaginous. Okay, the posterior part is made up of two bones especially, that is upper one, that is posterior superior part of the nasal septum is formed by the perpendicular plate of ethmoid. Okay, ethmoid is a bone. Okay, so all this almost, if you can observe this pinkish bone you are seeing, no, that is the ethmoid bone. Okay, so this is the perpendicular plate of the ethmoid. And posterior inferior quadrant of the nasal septum is formed by the omer. Okay, these two are the bony components of the nasal septum. Next, we'll learn about the cartilaginous part. Okay, this is the cartilaginous part of the nasal septum. Okay, so the entire cartilaginous part is mainly formed by the septal cartilage, and this septal cartilage will fit into the area which is between the omer and the perpendicular plate of the ethmoid. Okay, so the most of the nasal septum cartilage is the septal cartilage or the cartilaginous septum. Okay, so then in the front, if you can observe here, this is a small cartilage which is called as columella. Okay, so how this columella is formed is, okay, so it is the columellar septum, we call it as. Okay, there are two alar cartilages. I already mentioned in the external nose, isn't it? Okay, the tips of the both alar cartilages, that is right and the left alar cartilage, unite to form columellar septum. So mainly remember, the bony part of the nasal septum is formed by two bones, especially in the posterior part, that is perpendicular plate of the ethmoid and the vomer. Then anterior part is mainly cartilaginous, which is formed by the septal cartilage mainly, and columellar septum or the columella. It is formed by the tips of the union of the tips of the both alar cartilages. Okay, these are the bony and the cartilaginous components of the nasal septum. Okay, there are two bones and two cartilages. Okay, so this is again with the theory. Okay, I put a slide. Okay, and there are only two bones, I said, that is perpendicular plate of the ethmoid and the vomer, and vomer, and sometimes it can be contributed by all these bones. Okay, that is nasal spine of the frontal bone, rostrum of the sphenoid. Okay, so here you are seeing, no, so this is the sphenoidal crest or the rostrum of the sphenoid, and there is nasal crests of the nasal palatine and the maxillary bones. These are just the minor contribution. These two are the main bones which form the nasal septum. Okay. And these are the cartilages. If you can observe here, this is the septal cartilage and this is the septal process or the tip of the two alar cartilages unite to form columella. What are the arteries supplying the nasal septum? Okay, so there are, if you can recall your case scenario, so she came with the complaints of bleeding through the nose, isn't it? Okay, so that's mainly maybe related to the arteries, okay, of the nasal septum. Okay, so you can divide the nasal septum into 4 quadrants for your convenience, that is antero-superior quadrant, antero-inferior quadrant, then postero-superior quadrant and the postero-inferior quadrant. First, we'll take up the postero-superior quadrant. It is supplied by the anterior and the posterior ethmoidal arteries. Okay, these two are the branches from ophthalmic artery. Then postero-inferior component, that is supplied by the sphenopalatine artery. You know, I think it is a continuation of the maxillary artery. Okay, sphenopalatine artery. Then antero-superior quadrant and the antero-inferior quadrant. Okay, antero-inferior quadrant will be supplied by the superior labial artery. Okay, and it is almost, okay, so accompanied by the greater palatine artery. So mainly you have learnt about the 5 arteries here, isn't it? Okay, so all these arteries give a septal branches. So the nasal septum is supplied by the septal branches of the superior labial artery, anterior ethmoidal artery, posterior ethmoidal artery, greater palatine artery and the sphenopalatine artery. Sphenopalatine artery is a main artery here because it is called as the artery of epistaxis. Okay, what is epistaxis? That is bleeding through the nose is called epistaxis. Okay, so then this circle, if you can observe, okay, so there is a antero-inferior part of the nasal septum. There is a little's area. Okay, this is the area which is rich in vascularity or the blood supply, because most of the arteries which are supplying the septum are coming and anastomosing here. Okay, that means this area is rich in vascularity. So any small injury, or if you try to pick the crest which is formed in the nose because of the drying of the mucus, okay, if you try to remove that, that is called as the digital trauma. Okay, minor digital trauma can lead to, okay, so large amount of bleeding here. Okay, so that is called as, that area is very sensitive because of rich vascularity. This area is called as the Little's area. Okay, then one more terminology you are seeing here, that is the Kesselbach's plexus. Okay, what is that? That is the plexus, means it is the confluence of the arteries or the nerves, you can take it. Okay, so here it is the arteries, confluence of all the 4 arteries, that is anterior ethmoidal, and septal branch of the superior labial artery. This is a branch from facial artery. Okay, so septal branch of superior labial, then the septal branch of greater palatine, and the sphenopalatine. Mainly sphenopalatine, because sphenopalatine artery is called as artery of epistaxis. Okay, all these 4 arteries, okay, except the posterior ethmoidal, they say, because it doesn't reach the antero-inferior part of the septum. Okay, so all these 4, that is superior labial, anterior ethmoidal, greater palatine, and the sphenopalatine arteries, they form a network or the confluence in the antero-inferior part of the nasal septum. Okay, that confluence of arteries is called as the Kesselbach's plexus, and that area which is present in the antero-inferior part of the nasal septum is called as the Little's area. Okay, very important, okay, question. You should be able to describe the Little's area, what it is, and what are Kesselbach's plexus, and why this area is more prone for, okay, bleeding or epistaxis. So 4 arteries you must remember for the arterial supply of nasal septum. Okay, so this is again the same slide with all the branches and how they are forming the Kesselbach's plexus and the Little's area. Then we'll go ahead with the nerve supply of the nasal septum. If you can observe here, okay, so the nose, if you can take it as one of the main sensory organ, isn't it? It carries the sensations of smell. Okay, so the nose, you can divide the nerve supply into 2 parts, that is general sensations and the special sensations. Okay, remember, special sensations is through the olfactory nerves. Okay, that is restricted only to the olfactory area. Okay, so these all, whatever you're seeing, these are the olfactory nerves. There are many in number, and they carry the sensation of smell from the nasal cavity, and they pierce the cribriform plate of ethmoid. Because they pierce that, it is called as cribriform plate, because there is like pores. This is the cribriform plate of the ethmoid. This is the sphenoid bone. Okay, so this is the cribriform plate of ethmoid, where the olfactory nerves are carrying the special sensations of smell. Then what about the general sensations? Okay, so the general sensations are usually by the branches of trigeminal nerve. Okay, so you can divide it into again 2 compartments, that is antero-superior, antero-inferior, postero-superior, and postero-inferior compartment. Okay, antero-superior compartment, okay, it is derived from anterior ethmoidal nerve. And antero-inferior compartment is from anterior superior alveolar nerve. Remember, for the nasal septum and the lateral wall, the nerve supply is more or less similar. Here the nerves are comparatively less. In the lateral wall, it will be, branches will be more. That's all. Okay, so 1 or 2 branches might vary. Okay, so antero-superior quadrant, it is by the anterior ethmoidal nerve, and antero-inferior quadrant is by the anterior superior alveolar nerve. And posteriorly, postero-superior and postero-inferior branches mainly derive from the pterygopalatine ganglion. Okay, so posterior-superiorly, it is by the posterior superior nasal branches. Those are from the pterygopalatine ganglion, and inferiorly by the nasopalatine nerve. This is also derived from the pterygopalatine ganglion. Remember 4 nerves here, that is anterior ethmoidal, anterior superior alveolar, posterior superior nasal branch, and the nasopalatine nerve. These are the 4 nerves mainly which carry the general sensations from the septum, that is the medial wall of the nose, and special sensations are by the olfactory nerves. Next, we'll go ahead with the lateral wall of the nose. Okay, so if you can observe the lateral wall, okay, so this is the medial wall or the septum, we call it as. Okay, on either sides you are observing some shelf-like projections, isn't it? Okay, see there are some shelf-like projections in the lateral wall, and there are spaces between those shelves. Okay, and a word about the paranasal air sinuses. Okay, so paranasal means on next to the nasal cavity there are air-filled spaces. Okay, AIR, air-filled spaces. Those are called as the paranasal air sinuses. It will be dealt in detail in the next class. Okay, for time being, remember in the maxilla bone there are maxillary air sinuses. Okay, in the frontal bone you will get the frontal air sinus, and in the ethmoid, okay, all these are the ethmoidal air sinuses. Ethmoidal are 3 in number: anterior, middle, and the posterior. Okay, there are 3 ethmoidal air sinuses and maxillary air sinus, frontal air sinus, and within the body of sphenoid there is sphenoidal air sinus. Okay, these are the paranasal air sinuses. Okay, please remember those. Okay, so this is the lateral wall of the nose. If you can observe here, there are shelves. Okay, this is one upper shelf, middle one, and the lower one. Between these shelves or below these shelves there is spaces. Okay, those shelf like projections are called as concha. Okay, so if you can see here, that is the concha, and that is singular. Conchae is plural. Okay, shelf like projections are called concha, and the spaces between these are called as meatus. Meatus means the space between, okay, or below the each concha. That is, below the superior concha there is superior meatus. Below the middle concha there is middle meatus. Below the inferior concha there is the inferior meatus. Sometimes there might be one more additional concha, that's called as highest concha or the supreme concha. Okay, so 4 concha, that's called as the supreme concha. Usually it is not present. Okay, so only 3 concha you should be able to describe, that is superior, middle, and the inferior. We'll learn about these concha in detail. Where are they? How are they formed? Okay, which bone forms those? Okay, and this is the nasal cavity. Okay, why did I mention about the paranasal sinuses? Okay, I already mentioned they are the air-filled sinuses. Okay, those make the skull lighter and your voice becomes resonance because of the air which is present in the paranasal air sinuses. Okay, all these paranasal air sinuses and also the nose or the nasal cavity is lined by the mucous membrane, isn't it? Okay, so there is a production of mucus within, okay, for the functions, isn't it? For the air conditioning or to maintain the lubricancy and so on. Okay, and this mucus which is present in the sinuses, that is the paranasal air sinuses, has to drain into the nasal cavity. Okay, so if any obstruction in the drainage leads to sinusitis, you would have learnt about it, isn't it? Heard about it. That is the sinusitis. That means inflammation of the paranasal air sinuses is called as the sinusitis. When does it occur? Because the mucus which is present in these air sinuses, if it fails to drain into the nasal cavity, okay, so this that gets blocked. Okay, so this mucus gets stuck within, thus there won't be any resonance or the airflow, isn't it? Okay, because the airflow won't be there because mucus plug would have caused the obstruction. So the voice would no longer be resonant and the skull also would not be lighter. Okay, when you, okay, so land up in sinusitis. Okay, so that is the main function you must remember. So why there are meatus? Okay, because whatever this maxillary air sinus or frontal air sinus, the mucus which is present in these air sinuses would drain into the nasal cavity in these spaces. That is the meatus. Okay, so if you can observe here, this is the orbit and this is the maxillary sinuses. Okay, this is the nasal cavity. These are the concha, superior, middle, and the inferior concha. Okay, so what are these concha? How are they formed? Okay, so on the section of the skull, okay, we have taken out the nasal septum here. You are not seeing the nasal septum anymore. This is the lateral wall of the nose you are seeing. Okay, so in the lateral wall, you are seeing the shelf-like projections, isn't it? These are called as concha. I already mentioned. See there, this is the sphenoid bone. This is the sphenoidal air sinus. This is frontal and maxillary air sinus. You already learned frontal and the sphenoidal. Okay. This area is the cribriform plate of ethmoid. I already mentioned. This entire green colored area is the ethmoid bone actually. Remember that. Okay. We'll describe the each concha in detail in the later slides. Okay. What are the bones and the cartilages forming the lateral wall of the nose? You have learned the bones and the cartilages which are forming the septum, isn't it? Okay, there are 2 cartilages and 2 bones. posterior aspect is mainly bony in the nasal septum and the anterior aspect is cartilaginous. Okay, so see there, this is the bony part again, this is the cartilaginous part of the nasal lateral wall of the nose. Okay, so whenever you see this shelf-like projections, that means it is lateral wall. If you don't see any shelf-like projections, it is like a single membrane, that will be medial wall of the nose or the nasal septum in the section. Okay. So it is partly bony and partly cartilaginous. What are the bones which form the lateral wall of the nose? Okay, so that is, I already mentioned, the nasal bone which forms the nasal bridge along with the frontal process of maxilla, and the lacrimal bone, okay, and concha, that is the part of the ethmoid, and this is the inferior concha. Okay, so then the perpendicular plate of the palatine bone. This is the palatine bone. Okay, the one which is ascending up here somewhere will be the perpendicular plate of the palatine bone. You are seeing here, see there, this is the perpendicular plate of the palatine bone. Okay, posterior aspect is mainly bony. Okay, so these are all the bones which contribute, and medial pterygoid plate. Okay, so this is medial pterygoid plate is a part of sphenoid bone. Okay, pterygoid plates are parts of a butterfly shaped bone called as the sphenoid. Medial pterygoid plate, perpendicular plate of the palatine bone, then the inferior concha, and superior and the middle concha, those two are parts of the ethmoid, along with the nasal bone and the frontal process of the maxilla, lacrimal bone. These are the bony components of the lateral wall of the nose. Then next we'll go ahead with the cartilaginous part. Okay, see here, these are the cartilages. Mainly there are three cartilages, that is lateral cartilage. It's also called as the superior nasal cartilage, superior lateral cartilage, and inferior lateral cartilage, which is the major alar cartilage. Okay, and a small one, that is the minor alar cartilage. Okay, remember there are mainly three cartilages which forming the cartilaginous for part of the lateral wall of the nose, and lower part is supported by the fibrofatty tissue covered by the skin. Okay, lower part. So posteriorly it is bony part, anteriorly it is cartilaginous part, and lowermost part will be supported from by the fibrofatty tissue which is covered with the skin. These are all the bones and the cartilages which are forming the lateral wall of the nose. Then, what are the features you observe in the lateral wall of the nose? Okay, features in the lateral wall of the nose is a question for you, 5 marks question. Okay, so lateral wall is very important. Okay, so because there are more features you have to learn on the lateral wall. Okay, this is the lateral wall of the nose, and these are all the curved ones which you are seeing like a shelf is the concha, superior, middle, and the inferior. Okay, from anterior to posterior part. Okay, so anterior to posterior part, the lateral wall of the nose is divided into three parts, that is anterior, middle, and the posterior part. Okay, anterior part is called as the vestibule. Okay, the one which you can see, it is covered by the small tiny hair, those are called as vibrissae. Okay, so and the skin, okay, that is called as the vestibule. Behind the vestibule, there is a wide area or the space that's called as the atrium. This is the middle part of the lateral wall of the nose. Then posteriorly, it is mainly formed by the concha and the meatus. Okay, so posterior part is very important for us now. Okay, so anterior part is called as the vestibule, which is covered by small tiny hair, those are called as the vibrissae, and you can observe here a curved line which is shown, that is the junction between the, okay, so this is all the mucous membrane, this is the skin area, so mucocutaneous junction, okay, that junction is represented by the Lyman nasi. This curved line is called as the Lyman nasi, which is the junction between the mucosa and the skin, that is anterior part and the middle and the posterior part. So it is junction between the atrium and the vestibule. Okay, understood? So that is the Lyman nasi. This is the, okay, skin covered area, that is cutaneous area, and rest of the lateral wall is the mucus covered area. So mucocutaneous junction is represented by Lyman nasi. Okay, so this is the atrium, that is the wide space in the middle of the lateral wall of the nose. Then coming to the posterior part, it is very important. It is the one which contains the concha and the meatus. We'll take up the posterior part in detail. I already mentioned the posterior part is represented by 3 shelf-like projections. Those are called as the concha. That is superior concha, middle concha, and the inferior concha. If you can observe here, superior concha and middle concha are continuous, isn't it? Okay, so these two are formed by a single bone. That is the labyrinthine part of the ethmoidal bone. Okay, labyrinthine part of the ethmoidal bone forms the superior and the middle concha, and inferior concha, if you take, it is separate from those two, isn't it? So it is the separate independent bone. Okay, inferior concha is an independent bone and it is the largest concha, and superior and the middle concha are the parts of the labyrinthine part of ethmoid bone. Among them, superior concha is smaller. If you can observe, superior is smaller and inferior is larger. Okay, sometimes above the superior concha there might be a supreme concha, okay, or the highest concha, that's called as the fourth concha. Okay, then the spaces which are present, okay, below the concha are called as the meatus. If you can take here, this is the superior concha, so this is superior meatus. This is the middle concha, this is middle meatus. Okay, so this is the inferior concha, so below the inferior concha you call it as the inferior meatus. Okay, we'll learn it in the next slide. Okay, so meatus are the passages or the spaces which are present between the concha. If you can recall, okay, I mentioned about the paranasal air sinuses, and they have to open into the or drain into the nasal cavity, that is especially into the lateral wall of the nose. Okay, so if you can observe here, this is the superior concha, this is middle concha, and this is inferior concha. Superior meatus, middle meatus, and the inferior meatus. Okay, so above the superior concha, if you can observe, see there is one small area, previous picture. Okay, so this one, okay, there is a prolongation of the space or the mucosa, that's called as the sphenoethmoidal recess. Please remember that, sphenoethmoidal recess. This is the sphenoid bone, this is the sphenoidal air sinus. So this is ethmoid, isn't it? Cribriform plate of ethmoid. Between these two there is a sphenoethmoidal recess. So sphenoethmoidal recess, superior concha, superior meatus, middle concha, middle meatus, inferior concha, inferior meatus. These are the features you can observe in the posterior part of the lateral wall of the nose. So the meatus are very important for us now, because meatus is the space, okay, underneath each concha. That's the place where the paranasal air sinuses will drain into. Okay, so we will observe some features here. First feature is the sphenoethmoidal recess. Okay, and then is the superior concha and superior meatus. If you can observe here, see there, sphenoidal air sinus is opening into the sphenoethmoidal recess. If you can observe here, there is a sphenoethmoidal recess here. This is called as the recess, and this is the sphenoidal air sinus which is opening into the sphenoethmoidal recess. Then what is opening into the superior meatus? See there, superior meatus gives opening for the posterior ethmoidal sinus. I mentioned in the ethmoidal air sinuses there are 3, that is anterior, middle, and the posterior. So posterior will drain into the superior meatus. Then middle meatus is very important for you. Middle meatus can arise as a single 5 marks question. So you should be able to describe the features in the middle meatus. Okay. Sphenoethmoidal recess, you remember sphenoidal air sinus will be opening, and to the superior meatus there is posterior ethmoidal air sinus will be opening. Then we'll come to the middle meatus. Okay. In the middle meatus, if you can observe this area, there is a rounded elevation. You can follow the text here. Okay. So the rounded elevation just underneath the middle concha. Okay, that rounded elevation is called as bulla ethmoidalis. Why this bulla ethmoidalis is formed? Because the middle ethmoidal air sinus, okay, middle ethmoidal air sinus is present underneath this bulla ethmoidalis. So it has produced an elevation onto the middle meatus. That's called as the bulla ethmoidalis. So bulla ethmoidalis is a rounded elevation in the upper part or just below the middle concha that is produced by the middle ethmoidal air sinus, which is present underneath it. Okay, below the bulla ethmoidalis, you are seeing one. Okay, so crescent shaped area. This is called as the hiatus semilunaris. Below the bulla ethmoidalis, there is a crescent shaped area called as the hiatus semilunaris. Okay, and then in just the upper part, okay, so there is a area which is little dilated area, that's called as the infundibulum. Okay, these three are the features which are seen in the middle meatus. What are the three features in the middle meatus? That is bulla ethmoidalis, hiatus semilunaris, and the infundibulum. Okay, so why this area is divided into bulla ethmoidalis, in hiatus semilunaris or infundibulum? Because each region or each part has different air sinuses which are opening into it. Okay, now I already mentioned the bulla ethmoidalis itself contains middle ethmoidal air sinus. So middle ethmoidal air sinus will open into the bulla ethmoidalis, and into the hiatus, anterior part towards the infundibulum, there is a opening of the frontal air sinus. See there, this is the frontal air sinus which opens into the anterior part and the infundibulum, through a duct called as the frontonasal duct. And then towards the middle or the floor of the hiatus semilunaris, there is an opening of the anterior ethmoidal air sinus. Onto the posterior part, there is an opening of the maxillary air sinus. Okay, totally there are 4 air sinuses which open into the middle meatus. Okay, to name them, onto the bulla ethmoidalis, it is middle ethmoidal air sinus. Okay, towards the anterior part and the infundibulum, there is a frontal air sinus through the frontonasal duct. To the floor of the hiatus semilunaris, anterior ethmoidal air sinus, and to the posterior part, it is the opening of the maxillary air sinus. Most of the air sinuses opens into the middle meatus except posterior ethmoidal, which opens into the superior meatus, and the sphenoidal air sinus, which opens into the sphenoethmoidal recess, which is present just above the superior concha. So now you all learnt where all the paranasal air sinuses are opening into. Okay, so frontal here, anterior ethmoidal into the floor of hiatus, then maxillary into the posterior part of hiatus, into the superior meatus there is posterior ethmoidal, sphenoethmoidal recess, there is a sphenoidal air sinus which is nearer to it, isn't it? Okay, then that's about the middle meatus. When they ask middle meatus, you should be able to describe what is it. Okay, middle meatus is a space underneath the middle concha, and there are some features in it, isn't it? Okay, what is bulla ethmoidalis, what is hiatus semilunaris, and what is infundibulum, and you should be able to tell what are the sinuses which are opening into the middle meatus of the nasal cavity. Okay, in the spotters also they can pin this area and they can ask you name the sinuses which are opening into this area, or name the openings in this area. You should mention it is the middle meatus and what are the sinuses. They can ask superior also and inferior. We'll come to the inferior meatus. Okay, so I think it's clear for you the middle meatus, what are all you are supposed to write when it is asked for 5 marks. Then we'll come to inferior meatus. Okay, please remember inferior meatus will be between the hard palate and the inferior concha. Okay, roof of the nasal cavity and the superior concha, it will be sphenoethmoidal recess, and superior and the middle, it is superior meatus. Middle and the inferior, it is in middle meatus. Okay, so now we are seeing one structure which is opening here. That is the opening of the nasolacrimal duct. That means, okay, so what is nasolacrimal duct? It carries the tears. Okay, so from the there is a lacrimal apparatus. You would have learned, I think, okay. From the lacrimal gland, the secretions of the lacrimal gland, that is tears, is carried into the nasal cavity through the nasolacrimal duct. Where does it open? It opens into the inferior meatus, okay. Superior and inferior meatus, only one structure. That is, into the superior it is posterior ethmoidal, into the inferior it is nasolacrimal duct. Rest of the paranasal air sinuses will open into the middle meatus except sphenoid. Okay, so I think this is clear to you. Okay, so you should be able to describe the features in the lateral wall of the nose. That is the vestibule, and then the atrium. Okay, and then posterior part, that is concha and the meatus. What are the structures or features in the middle meatus, and what are the openings which are present in the nasal cavity or the lateral wall of the nose. Okay, so this is the picture showing the bulla ethmoidalis. See there, this is the inferior concha, this is the middle concha. If you can observe, this is superior concha. This is that rounded elevation which is caused by the middle ethmoidal air sinus which is present underneath. That's called as bulla ethmoidalis. This is the hiatus semilunaris. If you can observe here, this is the sphenoidal air sinus. This is the recess, sphenoethmoidal recess. This is frontal air sinus, which is opening through the frontonasal duct into the infundibulum, or the anterior part of the summit of the anterior part of the hiatus semilunaris. Okay, this area is for the, so this is middle, this is for the, so maxillary air sinus. Hope it is clear to you, the bulla ethmoidalis. Okay, so this is again the description of the features which are in the lateral wall of the nose. I already mentioned, and it is given in the text also. Where does it open? Sphenoethmoidal recess, what does open? Okay, then superior, what opens? Inferior, what opens? And in the middle meatus, the list is more. Okay, so what will open into the middle meatus? Frontal, anterior ethmoidal, and maxillary, and the middle. All these air sinuses will open into the middle meatus. Okay, this is again a picture showing the meatus and the openings of the paranasal air sinuses. This is the opening for the nasolacrimal duct. Frontonasal duct, nasolacrimal duct. Okay, so it is clear to you now. This is concha, middle, inferior. This is the superior. This is the sphenoethmoidal recess. See there, sphenoidal air sinus is opening into it. This is frontal sinus which opens into the infundibulum. This is bulla ethmoidalis. This is the nasopharynx. This is the opening of the auditory tube. Okay, this area if you can see. And this is the vestibule. This is atrium. And this is this curved line you are seeing. It is the Lyman nasi. That is the mucocutaneous junction. Hope the features in the lateral wall of the nose is clear to you. Next, we'll go ahead with the blood supply of the lateral wall of the nose. Okay, here also arteries are more or less similar, but we won't say them as the septal branches. But in the medial wall, we tell them as the septal branches of whatever. Okay, so superior quadrant, it is supplied by the sphenopalatine artery. Inferior from the greater palatine artery. Okay, greater palatine also gives few branches to the so antero-inferior part also. So antero-inferior quadrant, it is supplied by branch from the facial artery and the greater palatine. Then antero-superior, it is from anterior ethmoidal, more or less similar to the medial wall or the septum of the nose. You can remember there are few more branches, that's all. Okay, this is again the picture showing the arterial supply. Okay, so these are all the branches, which distribute. Okay, so that is nerves. It is almost the same, but the nerve branches are more, that's all. If you can see here, the sensations, that is sensation of smell is carried from olfactory. This is the pterygopalatine ganglion, which gives most of the nerves to the posterior-superior and the posterior-inferior quadrant of the lateral wall of the nose. Okay, that is the same branches almost. Then antero-superior is from anterior ethmoidal. Then antero-inferior quadrant is from the anterior-superior alveolar nerve. Please remember these two. Okay, 4 branches if you can tell for each quadrant, that is 1 each. Okay, that would be more than sufficient. Remember, posterior branches are from pterygopalatine ganglion. Anteriorly, most of the times it is even the artery and the nerve would be same. Antero-superior, it is anterior ethmoidal. Antero-inferior, the nerve is anterior superior alveolar nerve, and the arteries would be usually branch from greater palatine artery and the facial arteries. Okay, so the special sensations I already mentioned, it is through the olfactory nerves. Then this is the comparison of the arterial supply. This is for the lateral wall and this is for the medial wall. This is the Little's area forming the Kesselbach's plexus. This is again the comparison between the nerve supply. This is the lateral wall, the medial wall of the nose. This is lateral wall. I already mentioned, if you see the shelf-like projections, that is lateral wall. If you see one membrane, it is the medial wall on the cut section. Okay, it is the comparison of the nerve supply to the medial wall and the lateral wall. Okay, then venous drainage. Okay, I am explaining the venous drainage all together. That is for the medial wall and the lateral wall because it is the same. Okay, the veins will accompany the respective arteries and they form a plexus. Okay, underneath the mucous membrane. Those are called as the submucosal plexus. Okay, these plexus will usually drain into facial vein. Few will drain into the pterygoid venous plexus and few will drain into the pharyngeal venous plexus, that is into the pharynx. Okay, pterygoid, pharyngeal and the facial vein. And the submucosal plexus will be more in the Little's area usually. Okay, this is lateral wall I have taken. Okay, in the Little's area, the submucosal venous plexus will be more. Okay, that's why the Little's area is more prone for, okay, so bleeding or the bleeding through the nose. And there is one vein called as retrocolumellar vein. Okay, that is almost at the septum. Okay, it traverses all along the floor and then reaches the lateral wall of the nose. Okay, so that vein is called as the retrocolumellar vein. It is the most common vein which is prone for, okay, venous bleeding in the young individuals. Once they try to pick their nose, the young individuals, they land up in nasal bleeding. Okay, that's usually because of the venous bleeding, that is the retrocolumellar vein. The lymphatics from the anterior part of both the septum and the lateral wall drains into submandibular, and from the posterior part and the intermediate part, it drains into the retropharyngeal group of lymph nodes. So a few words about the applied anatomy. Okay, so that is one of the applied aspect is the rhinitis. I think you all know. Inflammation of the mucous membrane of the nasal cavity is called as rhinitis. Then how do you examine the nasal cavity? Okay, the procedure, okay, is the rhinoscopy. The scope, it is a mirror, okay, so or a speculum which is used to examine the nasal cavity, that's called as the rhinoscopy. Then deviated nasal septum, we'll talk about this. And epistaxis, I already mentioned. Bleeding through the nose is called epistaxis. And what is Little's area? You should be able to explain. That is antero-inferior part of the nasal septum. And why this is called as the area which is prone for epistaxis? Because there are Kesselbach's plexus. You should be able to describe the arteries which take part in the Kesselbach's plexus. Then foreign body in the nose. Okay, so you would have seen small children, okay, who tend to put some cotton or groundnuts, okay, or the peanuts or some seeds which are small, okay, into the nose. Okay, so that time it is, okay, so they will have difficulty in breathing. Okay, it should be examined and treated properly. Okay, then the nasal polyps. Okay, we'll talk about these things. Okay, so rhinitis I already mentioned. Okay, it is the common cold, whatever it might be. Okay, so viral or the bacterial infection. Okay, the person will have rhinorrhea or pharyngitis or the sore throat, cough and congestion, and sometimes if the paranasal air sinuses gets blocked, it leads to headache also. Okay, so then I already mentioned the examination of the nasal cavity is done through the rhinoscopy. Okay, there are two two things, that is anterior rhinoscopy and posterior. Anteriorly means, okay, they introduce a speculum, okay, which contains mirror. If you can see here, this is the mirror. Okay, this is posterior actually, they have shown, see there, okay, through the mouth. Okay, if you introduce a scope, that is a with mirror, okay, so that's called as the posterior rhinoscope. And through the anterior part, if you examine the nose, okay, through the nostrils, that is called as the anterior rhinoscope. Posteriorly, it is by the mirror is inserted into the nasopharynx area. To examine the posterior part is better seen, actually visualized. That's a place where you found all your meatus and all, so it is more important. Okay, that's called as the, this is the rhinoscopic image which is formed on the mirror actually. These are all the concha. Okay, this is the nasal septum. Then deviated nasal septum, that means, see, this is the normal nasal septum. Okay, so that should be usually straight. Okay, so when it gets deviated onto one side, what happens is this nasal cavity or the space is reduced in that particular area where the septum is deviated to. Say for example, this is the, okay, so right sided, it is deviated to the right side, so the space is very less here. What happens in this nostrils, the person can feel difficulty in breathing, and sometimes when the space is less, okay, so they can cause headache, isn't it, because of the improper drainage of the paranasal air sinuses which are present on this side. Okay, so they all can land up in with this symptoms, and it should be corrected. Okay, so there is a, okay, this is the normal nasal septum. If you can observe here, see, there is a deviation onto this side. Okay, so it can be examined or investigated on the X-rays or CT scan too. Okay, so it should be corrected by a submucosal resection or septoplasty. The procedures which corrects the deviated nasal septum or these two, that is submucosal resection and the septoplasty. And a word about the nasal polyps. Okay, so what are these polyps? Okay, these are all the outgrowths or the, okay, mucosal lined projections, okay, which, okay, occur in the nasal cavity, especially the lateral wall of the nose. Why does they occur? Because of the negative pressure which is created within the nasal cavity, they draw the mucosa, okay, as a outpouch, as an outpouch, okay, which comes into the, okay, especially to lie in the meatus area. Okay, those are called as the nasal polyps. The grape-like outgrowths of the mucosa is called as the nasal polyp. Okay, so frequent rhinitis or sinusitis, okay, usually leads to nasal polyps, because we tend to, okay, so the negative pressure which is created within the nasal cavity will suck in the mucosa, so thus the polyps will be formed. Okay, so I forgot to mention about one word, that is the turbinate. Okay, so what is turbinate? Because one side, say for example, if this side is the nasal septum deviated, the other side, the concha become bigger. Okay, so remember, concha means it is only the bone. If that concha is covered by the mucous membrane, that is in the living individuals, we call it as turbinates. Turbinate. Turbinate. So say for example, the septum is deviated onto the right side, there will be turbinate hypertrophy on the left side. Okay, because compensatory hypertrophy, this area, the space is more onto the opposite side, so the turbinates become bigger. Concha and turbinates are same. In the living individuals, which will be covered by the bone will be covered by the mucosa, so we term it as turbinate. In the skull, that is only the bone, we call it as concha. Okay, you can describe it as concha only because you are learning about the, okay, dissected specimen, so it will be the concha or the skull bone. When you are telling in the, okay, living individual or in the, okay, dissected prosected specimen, you can call it as turbinate. There is no wrong in it. Okay, so remember, turbinates and the concha are, okay, similar, synonyms. Okay, that's about the nasal polyps. Okay, we'll come back to the case scenario. Okay, so the patient, okay, was diagnosed to have epistaxis, that is bleeding through the nose. Okay, why should digital trauma lead to epistaxis? Because that area of, that is the little's area, which is more prone for Okay, so nasal bleeding because there are more vascular supply onto that area. So when you pick the nose or a digital trauma, small amount of trauma can lead to a large amount of bleeding. Okay, which part of the nasal cavity is involved? It is the nasal septum, especially the antero-inferior part of the nasal septum, that is the Little's area. Give anatomical basis for this problem. You can tell about the Kesselbach's plexus, what are the arteries taking part and what is Little's area and why that area is more prone for epistaxis or bleeding through the nose. And you can get some other case scenario for the lateral wall of the nose or like deviated nasal septum. Okay, so deviated nasal septum, okay, can be, okay, it can come, okay, without any etiology or a trauma, okay, while you're playing basketball or whatever, okay, large amount of blunt injuries can lead to deviated nasal septum also. So you should be able to describe, okay, what is nasal septum, what are the components of it, that is bony, cartilaginous, what is the nerve supply, blood supply, all those things. Okay, hope you have understood. Okay, any queries or doubts you can ask me. You can unmute yourself and ask me. These are the probable questions we expect, okay, in this area. You can all note down. Okay, so I'll keep this slide open, and if you have any doubts, you can ask me. You can unmute yourself. Escape Madla. Sorry. Small icon ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. Any doubts? Yes, Iona, can you unmute yourself? Iona can unmute herself.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, can you tell the arteries which take part in the formation of Kesselbach's plexus? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.